Scale contains more calcium than iron, so we only need to pipette 1 milliliter of that scale solution to determine the calcium concentration. So pour some of it into a beaker, place a 1 milliliter volumetric pipette into that beaker, and then squeeze a suction bulb and place it on top of the pipette. Gently releasing the pressure on the suction bulb allows for some solution to be pushed into the pipette. Once it has advanced beyond the calibration line, we can replace the suction bulb with an index finger, and then slowly releasing some pressure of our index finger allows to lower the level of liquid in the pipette until it is in line with the calibration line, until the lower meniscus is in line. And then we can transfer this 1 milliliter into a new beaker and dilute it with some distilled water, and we are ready for the next step. As we have learned, scale also contains iron ions, and these iron ions might interfere with our calcium titration, so we want to remove them before we start the titration, and we add 6 molar ammonium hydroxide solution. And the resulting iron hydroxide, when we add 2 stoppers of ammonium hydroxide, will precipitate as a gelatinous orange solid. And when we swirl it and then let it sit for a couple seconds, we can see the precipitate much better. The pH needs to be around 10, and to determine that, we use universal pH paper, immerse that in the liquid, and when the pH is around 10, we can assume that all the iron hydroxide has precipitated. To filter off the iron hydroxide, we use a vacuum tube connected to our central vacuum inlet and connect that rubber tube to a vacuum flask. So now we need a rubber adapter and a Büchner funnel. The rubber adapter is placed onto the filter flask, and the Büchner funnel is then firmly pressed into that adapter. The Büchner funnel is a container with holes in it, and to cover these holes we need some filter paper. The filter paper is placed into that Büchner funnel, and in order to make sure it covers the holes pretty well, we wet it with some distilled water. And now we can open the vacuum line and then pour our mixture into that Büchner funnel. This way we basically suck the liquid part of the mixture through that Büchner funnel, and all the iron hydroxide stays on top of the filter paper. And to make sure we don't lose any calcium that's in the solution, we rinse that beaker with plenty of distilled water, and the clear color tells us there's likely very, very few iron ions left in our solution. So now we are ready for the titration.